Good evening, one and all. Good evening. As always, I've got my two compadres here, and we're going to talk about some of our favourite games that we've experienced, whether it's live or on the TV. Well, it doesn't matter. Be interesting to hear some of yours as well. Shane, how you doing, my friend? Great stream last night with Kenny.
Yeah, all good, Jez. Thanks for having me on. As always, I'm looking forward to this one. There's just too many to squeeze in because we have so many memories, but I've picked a few that I think that whole special place in my heart. But yeah, I enjoyed the show with Kenny last night. It was amazing. I'm looking forward to doing it with yourself next Monday. It's always interesting to get everybody's opinion, not just even on the players they pick, but on the players that they're forced to leave out. I think they're the ones that I find very interesting. But looking forward to this, and looking forward to hearing the other people's picks as well. But again, thanks for having me on. Always a pleasure to be on the screen with yourself and Kenny and the wonderful chat.
Yeah, thanks, man. DJB can't make it tonight. He's got other priorities at the moment. So he did send his apologies and big up to DJB, man. Mr. Pad says, Jez, Shane, Kenny salutes. Kenny Ken, how you doing, my friend? Muted.
Very good show yesterday.
There you go.
We did a very good show yesterday where we looked at Arsenal's all-time 11. It's not easy, is it? It's not easy. You know, there's a lot. We got a lot of fans from all walks of life who join us, and they wanted us. They were wondering why Aubameyang wasn't mentioned as much great Arsenal strikers, and why some of the current players ain't mentioned. And it's just hard work. It's hard work actually getting an all-Arsenal 11. You know, with just without the Terry Neal's team, but to use the current generation, just not enough room at the moment. But as I said yesterday, you win the Champions League and the Premiership, and you do things like that regularly. It's good to talk. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this game because we've had some special games, man. Just it's nice to actually remember us when we were strong and when we were actually good.
Yeah.
I think I've frozen. Can you hear me?
I can hear you all right, but yeah, your screen is frozen, but we can hear you fine. Yeah. Oh, there you go. No, you're all right now.
I don't know what's going on here tonight. It's running very slow. If it goes tits up, I'll bounce out and come back in. All right. But yeah, all right. Let's get into this. There we go. So we're going to go through some of our favourite games that we've witnessed. Home, live, away, whatever, doesn't matter. And we're going to start off with one of mine. This one here, which I'll add to the stage, which is, of course, the iconic 1973. December the 23rd, 78. Now, the reason I picked this one out is because this was my second time as a young man to the old White Hart Lane, and we absolutely piped Tottenham 5-0. Brady's looping goal, we know that one, absolutely fantastic goal. Frank Stapleton scoring, Alan Sunderland getting the hat-trick. We walked out of White Hart Lane 5-0 2 days before Christmas, and it was quite an exceptional thing. It was a very naughty night, I won't lie, at White Hart Lane that night. It wasn't easy to get there or get home or whatever. But to me, that team, right? Pat Jennings, David O'Leary, Pat Rice, Steve Walford, Willie Young. Well, I know what Kenny thinks of him. But Steve Gattin, Liam Brady, David Price, Graham Ricks, Frank Stapleton, Alan Sunderland. Now, I don't know about you on this one, Shane, and then I'll ask Kenny. Not the greatest of teams. I mean, Spurs, Mark Kendall in goal, Jimmy Holmes, Terry Naylor, John Lacey, Colin Lee, Steve Perriman, great player. John Gorman, Ozzy Ardiles, great player. Of course, the iconic Glenn Hoddle, unbelievable. John Pratt, Peter Taylor. Now, I wouldn't say it's the greatest of Tottenham teams I've ever seen, but the fact we went down there and absolutely took them apart, it was an incredible game. Shane, what do you think? What would you put that one on?
Yeah, but now this will be before me, but I do know of the game. I know of the Liam Brady performance in that game. And when you look at the Tottenham team, I mean that, like you said, to go there and do that with the Hoddles and the like in the team, it's crazy. It's crazy, and that was sort of you know, at a time when Arsenal they would go on a course and get the cup and things like that in a year or so, but it had been a sort of a barren spell, I suppose you could call it, since the double. So and you know what, Jez, it's at a time as well when it meant a whole lot more to win. I mean, we're going and playing these guys in pre-season friendlies now. You know what I mean? We're going and playing them. That never would have been done. And we're just pouncing around the pitch. So this is when it meant everything. Anytime Arsenal go there and take them apart, it's always big. It's always big. But people seem to, or people need to know just how strong Tottenham were. They only have to look at the team. But that was sort of, like you said, you know, with the likes of Brady and things like that. It was a time for Arsenal fans to just enjoy the moment. You know, that's the way the fans now are all about moments and stuff like that. But that really was a moment in time to go there and do that. And if I remember rightly, it was shown on Match of the Day or something as well, wasn't it? It was one of the rare matches that was shown. I could be wrong about that, and the famous commentary and things like that. But it just, I mean, for you, obviously being there and the memory that it holds for you, it can't be touched. But to go there and do that to them, to dismantle them, it's like you said, it's something that's stuck with you forever. And you know, again, I'll go back to the strength of their team. It just makes it all the more sweeter, I think, and for where we were, unbelievable. But a 5-0 against Tottenham at any stage is something to be celebrated, and no more so than then.
Yeah, I mean, Kenny, you know it. This game.
Well, you know the context of the game. The context of the game is actually pretty interesting because you think about it logically. Spurs just come back from the first division, come into the first division from the second division, and and previous to that, they got smashed 7-0 by Liverpool in that season, 78-79, where and they by that time there was the idea and Ricky Villa, Glenn Hoddle. So although they had the names, they were still they were there for the taking, you know, because of the fact that the season before they weren't playing top class football. Pat Jennings played that game as well, goalie, and I just thought it was one of those things where you finally I remember I was only 6, but you've got an idea that you got to hate Tottenham. And I think when I saw that game and I saw the celebrations afterwards, 100%, it meant that was when I was beginning to get the sort of early seeds of, you know, what the North London derby meant. But it's one of those things where, you know, the memories of that game wasn't the goals. It was Donnell and Terry Neal in their Arsenal tracksuit and their gazelles. Remember when they used to wear those sort of like velvet, you know, gazelles, you know, up until today, way into the 80s. Shane, you got to see it for yourself. Anytime you went down the Arsenal during match day and you went to kind of like the Marble Halls, all you used to see is Donnell and Terry Neal in their Arsenal tracksuits, in their gazelles. It just reminds me of the good old days. But you think about it, Alan Sunderland got a hat-trick that day. Yet everyone talks about Brady's goal.
Yes.
He got a hat-trick. Mark Kendall was in goal for Spurs that day. You know, where they didn't really know, after Pat Jennings, they just struggled to replace him. You know, tried goalkeepers like Barry Daines, you know, Mark Kendall, the late Melia Lexic, God bless his soul. So those, and it was only until they got Clements that they had finally got a goalkeeper they're settling. But what a game! Thrashing Tottenham just 2 days before Christmas. There's no better than that, is it? No better than that.
No, to me, as I say, it stays in my memory forever. That's my only second time of going down to White Hart Lane. Yeah, it wasn't a good night. Getting home, it was not enjoyable, but it was a great occasion. But anyway, we move on from that one, so we'll get rid of that one out the way. Now we're going to move on, Shane, to one of yours, and then Kenny will get to you one of yours. So add to stage over here. So this is yours. Arsenal 5, Borough 3. Talk us through it, my friend.
Yeah, for this for me, but this was I remember because that was the time to be an Arsenal fan was just we felt untouchable. Me and Kenny Ken were talking about it last night with Perez, Ashley Cole, and Henry and the like. So just on that left side alone, when they really clicked, they were unplayable. And for this, for me, this game, I remember one of my mates ringing me when Borough went 3-1 up, going, "Finally, you're going to lose," because it was during the unbeaten run, and we just switched it on. We switched it on, and for me, I remember Bergkamp was captain, and it was just. When Arsenal turned it on, it was unbelievable. The bit I remember the most was Reyes' goal, because we had just equalised, and while they were showing the replay, we won the ball off and went forward and went 4-3 up, just like that, just a switch. It was just a click of a switch. It was, remember Ray Parler's first game back as well. But I remember Quadru scored a goal. Layman was well out of his, he was on the wrong side of the goal, and Quadru struck it from nowhere and it went in. And you know when you get that silence at Highbury, because it was during the unbeaten run, they weren't used to going behind. But you can see it there. Perez 64th minute, Reyes 65th minute. I mean, it was just like that. You know, Bergkamp as well. What made it then special for me, that confirmed that it was special for me, was when Dennis Bergkamp's autobiography came out. He wrote that was his favourite game he's ever played in, because he was captain and because it was total football. It was pure attacking football that Arsenal played. It was like when someone says that a smaller team poked the bear. They shouldn't have gone 3-1 up. They just annoyed them. Arsenal woke up. I remember Bergkamp for the second goal for us, took it, beat a couple of players, slammed it in to the bottom corner. But it's the Perez Reyes minute for me that just showed what that team was about. That team could switch it on in a second and steamroll anyone and steamroll any team they came up against. And I just remember at the end of that game thinking, and irrationally thinking, we're never going to lose. We're never going to lose. Like, that's how invincible you felt supporting this team. You're like, we're never going to lose. We're too good, you know. But it didn't actually last that much longer after the unbeaten run, ironically. But for me, that game was just, it was everything that being an Arsenal fan was about back then. It was, we are the best team in the country by a country mile. And when anybody if anybody annoys us, we're just going to steamroll them. And you just have to look at the list of players that have scored there. I mean, two of them have statues outside. You know what I mean? So it's just a magical moment for me. It was a magical moment for me. Bergkamp captain, Ray Parler returns, the Reyes goal, and it just, for me, it had everything. It had absolutely everything, and it'll always stay with me as a moment in time when I just thought, I support the best team in the world, man. I support the best team in the world, and just a magical moment that stayed with me forever.
Fact, very true. Kenny Ken, your memory of that great game?
Oh, well, it was the first game of the 2004-2005 season. First home game. So week before we played Everton, beat them. Jess Fabregas was playing that game with his bleach with his like blonde highlights. But the game itself was just an excellent game. But you got to remember one thing about Middlesbrough. They were the holders of the League Cup. They beat Bolton 2-1. Yeah, some very good players. And, do you remember Joe's, Joe Desiree Job? Remember Desiree Job?
He scored, yeah. Scored a
goal, great play. And Hasselbank.
Mendieta as well. Yeah, Mendieta as well.
Hasselbank. Yeah, exactly, Mendieta. But Hasselbank's, that guy's probably got the hardest shot of all time.
Yeah.
He already scored a great one. I do remember, Frank Quadru, Layman, basically, I think he was having a nap and not with the goal in. But you think about
thought he was going to cross it.
Bergkamp pulling one back. Perez was a good goal. But I remember Jose Antonio Raya, he scored on his right foot.
Right foot, foot inside.
Corner. And then, obviously, Vavel, sealed it. But it's one of those things where, excellent game of football. It was one of those games where you thought, you know what? Even though we conceded 3 goals, the best players were playing. Henry was at his pomp. Bergkamp was still playing good football, and Perez. And I generally thought that we were just going to carry on. We went off from last season. I didn't really fear Man United. I feared Chelsea a bit because that was when Mourinho first entered our shores, and I thought this guy's too confident. He really believes in what he's saying. And I think, yeah, this guy's dangerous. Let's just keep an eye on him. But even then, if you sort of like rewind back, to that game. Remember, we went unbeaten until October, so we were actually the favourites. It's when we lost to Man United where I think it's a beginning and the end. And I think it's a beginning and the end in terms of loads of things. For a start, it's a beginning and the end of the Arsene Wenger, Alex Ferguson kind of, rivalry, because that's when, for me, that's when Arsenal stopped being a great team. I cite that game as when we stopped being a great team, and obviously, Keane and Vieira are coming towards the end. It was a last set of the last game together. Obviously, if you include the FA Cup final, and basically, we lost our winning record that time. So, if you had told me that first game of the season when we made a comeback that we weren't going to win the league again for another 21 years, I would have laughed at you. But actually, say what's happened. So, games like that, I can understand why you hold on to games like that, because it brings back loads of memories. But it was when Arsenal were great, really great. And it's sad that I cite that season, particularly the game at Old Trafford, as the beginning and the end. For me, it was beginning and the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, fact on that one. There's some of these comments, man. So here says, anyone going to the Athletic Bilbao game? I'm not, but
I'm probably going to curl my hair. I'm going to probably put some curls in my hair, so I probably won't have time for that. I've still got beef with Arsenal Football Club because I bought the Spurs game because I was doing a podcast after the review, and it was wasting time just to get a preview. So I just thought, right, let me just go on that app, and I got the commentary in Cantonese, Hong Kong TV, brilliant, enthusiastic, here in diaspora, singing songs. It was brilliant. But yeah, I don't really want to watch pre-season football. I'm too nervous. I'll save myself for the big one.
Yeah, facts, man. That is very true. Question for you, boys. Alan Smith or Alan Sunderland? What's your views on that one, guys?
Smith for me. Two golden boots, 2 leagues, double in the cups. Smith. So I think me and Kenny were discussing it last night. I think Alan Smith's very underrated, extremely underrated, in fact. But I'd have Smithy all day long. He's the first. My mum, when I was about 6, bought me a plastic figure of him standing up, kicking a ball, and it was my pride and joy. Man, I had it on my desk and all. I loved it. Smudger was one of my first favourite players, but Smith for me. Sunderland was before my time, but I just go for Smith for what he did.
Yeah, we're going to get into that in a minute. Right, Ken, what do you think? Smith or Sunderland?
Without a doubt, we'll have to go for Alan Smith. You can't ignore a player that's got 2 golden boots, and let's face it, he actually was very. If you notice that when you buy a striker, it's very rare and it's very pleasurable when they actually deliver. Alan Smith delivered for us. It's such a shame that that he had knee injuries and Ian Wright just too good to ignore. But yeah, Alan Sunderland, you could arguably say that he was kind of a second striker rather than sort of like a hold up man like Frankie Stapleton. But yeah, he was a fantastic servant for us. How can you ignore someone who got the winner in the 1979 FA Cup final, played in 3 cup finals, played in a Cup Winners' Cup final for us, joined from Wolves, brilliant footballer. But come on, it's got to be Smudger, isn't it?
It's got to be Smudger.
Smudger Smith, mate. We're going to get into that one. Kenny, you got a game that you want to particularly talk about?
Well, the game that I'm definitely going to talk about is that for me, Arsenal's renaissance occurred in the 86-87 season. I always hold that team, highly. Don't get me wrong. There's been better teams than that team under George Graham. Definitely Arsene Wenger had better teams. Obviously, you got the 71. When you think about where Arsenal were for that period after 1979, where we were difficult to beat. Donnell left under the cloud because of the Terry Venables' interest. what Donnell left and Terry Neal left was a very excellent youth team. Still left was Kenny Sampson and Johnny Lukic. And I can categorically tell you now that if it wasn't for that team and that success in 86, 87, I don't think we would have seen Arsenal in the league in 89. And then obviously the prelude towards Arsene Wenger's great years as well. That team started it all. And that's why the game that I'm definitely going to go for is the FA Cup replay. Sorry, not FA Cup. The Littlewoods Cup replay at White Hart Lane. Let's have a backstory. So the backstory is, first leg at Highbury, Arsenal lost 1-0 to Spurs. Clive Allen scored a goal. Spurs put men behind the ball and defended really stoutly. Richard Gough was in defence with Gary Mabbott. They defended really stoutly. Glenn Hoddle was controlling the pace of the game. Ozzy was playing for them that day as well. And Chrissy Waddle played for them. You know, they had, God bless, they had Danny Thomas at right back. They had Mitchell Thomas at left back. Ray Clements was in goal. We had Johnny Lukic. We had Tony Adams, David O'Leary. We had Viv Anderson. We had Kenny Sampson. In midfield, we had Stevie Williams. In that side, we had obviously Rocky. You know, Martin Hayes was playing that day. So we had quite a good team. I thought we had the handle Tottenham, but we lost the first leg. In the second leg, 1-0 up, Clive Allen again in the second leg, and then half-time, the worst thing Spurs ever did was to give fans information on obtaining tickets for the Littlewoods Cup final because they thought they were already there. Then in the second half, Viv Anderson pulls one back, and then Niall Quinn scores, makes it 2-1, goes to extra time, nothing after extra time, and then the replay. The 5th of it was on a Wednesday. It was it was 3 days afterwards, so it was the 4th of March, 1987. 8 days before my birthday. We had nothing to lose. Spurs still had the home advantage. They went 1-0 up as well again. Clive Allen in the second half, you know, put the ball in the net, and then out of nowhere, the game was going now, and then Ian Allison came on the sub, scored the goal from like an impossible angle, and then Spurs were just on the back foot, and then last minute, Ian Allison has a volley, ricochets to the late great David Rocastle, and he puts the ball in the net. Great atmosphere. Knows that great atmosphere in terms of the ground. There's great atmosphere in North London. Got one over to Tottenham. They were the favourites, and it was as much as I enjoyed it, you couldn't help looking at the Spurs players on the ground. You know, Glenn Hoddle just didn't know where to look. Chrissy Waddle in tears on the ground, kneeling down, thinking what's happened. And it was one of those things where I thought, you know what? That's when I first realised we had bottle. Because you remember, we started the first half of the season, we were fantastic. And then the second half, our inexperience showed and we fell away. And we actually would go for a really barren run in the league by the time we played Spurs in those games. And, you know, to actually, win that game, especially against the odds, to actually do it away at White Hart Lane in a North London derby. As much as you feel fear for your life when you're coming out the ground, you can't help thinking that game led to another great game for us, the Littlewoods Cup final. Mm-hmm. I really should put the Littlewoods Cup final in that year in 87. But you have to, mention the game at Spurs because let's face it, adversity. We came from behind. We never once were ahead in that tie, except for the 90th minute at White Hart Lane. That's the only time Arsenal were ahead in that tie. David Rocastle out of nowhere. Mickey Thomas was playing that game. He began to make his debut. Steve Williams was playing that game. Tony Adams was playing. A very young side. So these are youth players that were brought on by Terry Neal and Donnell, and George used them as a falconry side. We had Perry Groves who was on the sub as well. He came on as well. You can't discount that game was responsible and probably led to our great years afterwards. Without that game, without winning that trophy, I don't think Arsenal had the history it has now.
No, totally agree. Totally agree. I've actually starred some good comments, which I will come to at the end of the show. Dow says, Hendon Gooner, my wife is one of 30 cousins. One of her cousins, Charlie, we found out lives in Gillingham. He'll be taking us to Stonehenge and around town a bit. Wife has a huge family. Stonehenge is quite away from London, but have a great time, man. It's a fascinating place to go. If you've only ever seen pictures of it, which you have, I know, it is absolutely brilliant place to go. When you get there, you'll get the aura about it. It's an incredible, incredible place. Shame it's now roped off, but that's to stop all people climbing over the stones, obviously. The fact it's, 4,000 odd years old, maybe more. They've had to protect it, of course. Mason says Kenny is an encyclopedia. Kenny is Google. When you Google football, right, it's Kenny that answers you. That's I know
a full-time job.
Yeah,
he sits at home on a computer answering Arsenal questions.
He tells us bollocks about his job. He's actually Google.
I wish I would. I'll make a lot of money.
Yeah, you would. Yeah.
Jez, I think it's a 2-hour drive from London. Thanks, mate. This time of year, mate, allow 3 hours because you've got to get down from London. You'll be down the M3, A303. It's peak season, mate. It's peak season. The A303 is a single carriageway. Well, it's double. Well, it's a one-way. It's not a dual carriageway. And on most of the places, it can take quite a while at this time of year. Being in August now, everybody's travelling down to Cornwall, that way, Somerset, Dorset for their holidays. So I wouldn't say it's going to take you 2 hours, mate, from London. Could possibly take you 3. So just let you know that, mate. Just let you know. Done it many a time myself, going down to Cornwall, and you think it's going to take 2.5, 3 hours, and you end up taking 4. But anyway, let's move it on. Now, Shane and I have both colluded in this one. Now, this one is a special game. Arsenal against Parma. First, this is the only ever game I've been to for Cup, European Cup game abroad. And what a game it was. I mean, if you, I'm just going to delete that off. Look at that team there, right? Dixon, Adams, Bold, Winterburn, Seaman in goal, Davis, Selly, Morrow, Campbell, Smith, Merson. Not the strongest of teams when you got Aspria, Zola, Brolin. Yeah, you know what I mean? Mignotti in there. I mean, it was quite a feat to win that game 1-0. Smudger Smith, as we all know, got the winner. Shane, I'm guessing you probably watched it on telly.
Yeah.
It was an iconic night. I mean, it was a bit of a naughty night as well. This is back in the days of the naughtiness, and it was all kicking off around in Copenhagen. But what a result, man. What second ever trophy we won in Europe under the iconic George Graham. And what do you want to tell me about it?
Well, just unbelievable when you think of Ian Wright missing it through suspension. He got booked in the second leg, which to this day I think that a second booking in a semi-final shouldn't count. It should only be a red card. There's too many good players have missed finals, but I digress. David Seaman had injections as well in his ribs. I think at the time he was in agony and he played an absolute blinder. Smith's goal was a screamer, but you just have to look at that midfield, Jess, to go into George Graham. If anybody ever wants to question George Graham, you look at that midfield and you go, he won a European trophy with that midfield. And no offense to Morrow and Selly, Davis was a wonderful, wonderful player, very underrated. And I could be wrong, but he had been in and out of the team in the lead up to it. He had fallen out with George Graham. I'm pretty sure it was that season, but I could be wrong. Kenny will know more than me. But I'm pretty sure he'd been in and out of the team at that stage. But when you look at Campbell, Smith, Merson, you go, okay, yeah, we're set. And of course, the back four. It was the midfield for me to go into a game like that with that midfield, and the way we had gotten there as well. We had beaten some amazing teams to get there. But I'll always remember the Parma team, because I was a teenager, but I was mad into my Serie A as well, and I knew about Brolin and Zola and Esprilla and all these guys, and I thought, how are we going to beat these? And we were absolutely pounded throughout. I remember at one stage Winterburn was even moved into midfield. George Graham at that stage, now we'd become more of a cup team, but he adored the European nights. He adored them. He adored the tactics of it. He adored going up against these foreign coaches and showing what he could do. And he switched the formations around, and we changed formations several times during the game to combat what they were doing. And that was, for me, George Graham obviously winning leagues is his peak, but as a tactician and as an in-game manager, those European nights were him at his peak. They were him at his peak, looking at the other team, saying, what can we do to affect them, and what can we do to stop them while also being effective? But Smith's goal as well was an absolute screamer, something that he wasn't associated with. But all in all, it was just, we don't have much of a European heritage. And I think that the Cup Winners' Cup should be brought back. I think it was a wonderful European trophy. I think they should get rid of the Conference League, have the Cup Winners' Cup, have it as a knockout the whole way through, but there's not enough money in it. But the Cup Winners' Cup was a great competition, competition. We had that, and if it hadn't been for that Naeem goal and we had got 2 in a row, I mean, we'd be looking at our European history a lot differently. It's mad how a little moment like that can change everything. If Seaman hadn't been warming up for penalties, maybe he wouldn't have gotten lobbed, but we'd already, I'm moving forward a year. But it's those little margins, isn't it, in football? And in that night, the margins went our way. That night, the margins went our way. Seaman had one of his greatest ever games, like he always did for big games. The defence were untouchable. And I'll finish on the midfield. Just look at it. And look how they all played. They all played out of their skin. Every last one of them played out of their skin. For me, that was the perfect example of a team leaving everything on the pitch. They left everything on that pitch. And it was just a magical moment for me. And Joe, I was old enough to really appreciate it as well, to really get what this meant. If I had known that we'd never win a European trophy again from then till now, I would have appreciated it even more. I would have definitely appreciated it, because, we'd had the Fairs Cup, 69, 70, so it would have been 25 years since we'd won anything in Europe. So, yeah, it was just a magical night. Everything about it. It was unbelievable. And it capped off by a wonderful goal and a 1-0 to the Arsenal. And, just a magical moment and a great game to watch back, to see how well they played defensively and the tactics involved. They kind of went under the radar when I was young, but I've watched it back many a time since, and it just never stops amazing me. The tactics involved in it. But as I said, the teams we knocked out on the way, and everything about it, after doing the doubles in the cup the season before, and I sort of felt a bit spoiled as an Arsenal fan for winning trophies every year. But apparently the trophies don't mean anything anymore, according to some of these guys. But they need to go back and watch that, because that was a magical night, an absolutely magical night.
It was indeed. I mean, second time I'd seen Arsenal win in Europe, and I was lucky to see. I saw the home leg at Highbury, a little kiddie. But yeah, it's been a shit show ever since, man. Big up to SG. Thank you, man, for your super chat. Question: if Arsenal managed to sign Maradona in '82, how would Arsenal look with Maradona as a player? Kenny, how you like him?
I don't think he would have worked with Maradona, because he would have had Don Howe as his coach. And I think Maradona would probably be suited, and I say this with a heavy heart, suited to playing for a team like Spurs, would played the more attractive football than we did, and clearly would have been the sort of player that would have loved the glamour of Man United. I've got to remember one thing, this attacking football that you see, front foot on the floor football, it wasn't always the case with us. Don't remember, we didn't hit the ball in the air, but we were we're a functional team with Don Howe as manager. He made us a very, very team that was hard to beat, and he wasn't a big man for flair, so it probably wouldn't have worked, because Don Howe basically ran our tactics, and Terry Neal just picked the team. So hindsight is brilliant, but it's Don Howe in it. Don Howe, I love the man, but Jez would be the first one to tell you, attractive football in Don Howe wasn't really a good bedfellows.
Not really. Kenny, bring out another team or game. Sorry, another game that's memorable.
The game you've got to think about, because you've got to remember, I'm one of those people. I'm one of the. I'm not Terry Neal. I'm a Terry Neal man. I'm Terry Neal, more left, right, and centre. It was so if you're going to sort of like talk about George Graham, Arsene Wenger, then you got about Terry Neal, and obviously I've got to go to the 1979 FA Cup final. Obviously, you have it in your wallpaper, but that for me cemented why I was an Arsenal fan. Obviously, I've been an Arsenal fan since a year later in 1980 when I actually fell in love and knew my mind. But that game was a very iconic game, not because of the fact how he won it, is the fact that how it affected everyone around the area. I'm from, as everyone, I tell anyone who listen, I'm from Finsbury Park, North Islington, Andover Estate, which borders Tottenham Park, borders Memorial Road, borders Hornsey Road, Seven Sisters Road, and it covers all corners. And basically, when Arsenal got to that final, the whole estate just stopped. It was a standstill. You could hear a pin drop. Everyone was indoors watching the match. Every house had the Evening Standard, coloured pull out of the team, because Evening Standard weren't in colour that time. It was just black and white. And it was a case of where it was an anticipation. Let's not forget, Arsenal were in the final a year before, so we wanted to get revenge. But Man United, they won the title, the FA Cup 2 years before that, when they beat Liverpool. So it's one of those games where we had a good record against Man United in games, especially at Highbury, not so much at Old Trafford. And I went in there really confident. Obviously, as a 7-year-old, I thought I was going to win. But it's one of those things where I believe I knew we would win. I thought we were going to win. And it was like, if you think about the game itself, let's not sugarcoat it, and let's not put the legislators on it didn't deserve. It's a poor game of football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It wasn't a great game of football. We were comfortably winning that game. Liam Brady's best game in an Arsenal shirt, where he ran the game. He ran the show. Completely ran the show. The first goal he was involved in, and then Brian Talbot, who joined us from Ipswich Town the year before, got the last touch, because it could have been anyone who could have got the touch, but he got the last touch, claimed the goal, went 1-0 up, and then Liam Brady on his wrong foot, puts across it instead. Gary Bailey's nowhere. Frank Stapleton heads it, and it's 2-0. And after that, it was a case of, it was a game where we were seeing it out. We were comfortable. Where Man United didn't have any emphasis in that game. There were Man United fans who were giving up. Some of them were leaving the stadium. And then, 5 minutes to go, Gordon McQueen just gets a goal. And if you look at Gordon McQueen's celebration, that sort of celebration when you pull a goal back. His celebration wasn't like, come on, and hugging everyone. It was like, yeah, we pulled a goal back, but we're still going to lose. That kind of expression. And then 3 minutes later, Sammy McIlroy out of nowhere, basically plays like the inverted right winger, just, beats a couple of players. And when he actually put the ball in the net, it didn't actually it was basically went in a slow motion. It was a case of, if you were watching like a film and you're going, no!
Yeah.
And Man United feet going, yeah! And it was like slow motion, and then boom, it goes in the net. And the Man United end, is full of pandemonium. The Arsenal end were going, what's going on here? How are we doing this? And I think that woke us up, because when Arsenal kind of realised that, hang on here, we don't want extra time, we caught Man United cold. Graham Ricks, Liam Brady, Graham Ricks cross, Gary Bailey again in no man's land, and Alan Sunderland just sweeps it in the back of the net, and that's it. Man United are dead. They're dead. There's no way you can come back. You can come back from 2-0, but when you spent all that time in labour trying to get back in the game, and then the game gets ripped off you, there was no way back for Man United. And it was one of those games. It's very iconic, because little did we know Liam Brady would leave a year later. Little did we know that it was after it was the last trophy win for 8 years. That's why I really look at that game and think, yeah, great game, because it's a sentimental value. But the most important thing as well, it's what happened in Islington. You know, first time I saw people coming out of Man Utd Estate going into Seven Sisters Road, and that's the first time I witnessed traffic being halted because we won the FA Cup. People in the streets of Seven Sisters Road just jumping on people's cars, and the drivers didn't mind. They were hoinking, you know, and really, really getting into it. And that for me, that brings memory. The match wasn't memorable, but occasionally achievement is memorable. For me, that's a game that holds. I think, yeah, that's why I support Arsenal.
Yeah, it's a very good point, mate. Very good. I mean, it was a memorable time. There's no doubt about that. But I'm going to get into this one. This is my third, if I can find what I was going to put up here. There we go. Let's share this as I can. Where is it gone? That's fucking bollocks, isn't it? Oh, Christ. Where is it now? Share screen. Oh, God. Seriously? Seriously? There we go. Share that. Go there. Of course, for me, iconic game. 1989. Liverpool Arsenal. Arsenal had to go there, win 2-0. And against a pretty bloody incredible Liverpool team. Grobler in goal, Ablett, Hansen, Nicol, Staunton, McMahon, Reelan, Houghton, Barnes, Aldridge, Ian Rush. I mean, let's be honest there, right? You can't really pick a bad player there, can you?
No.
Can you pick a bad player in that Liverpool team? Can he?
Sorry, I just put myself in me. That was a great Liverpool team, but morally we should have won. We should have wrapped it up because we went on a sort of like we basically like it was like walking around. It was basically like walking around the street with your flies undone. That's how we played our football after February, and it was a case where we should have won the league. Liverpool that season, let's not forget that season, they lost at home to Newcastle, Norwich. You know, they drew the Merseyside derby, so they were a bit fallible because, you know, the season before that, they played probably some of the best football that you ever see the Liverpool side with Barnes, Beardsley and Aldridge, you know, and also Lanson at the back and, you know, and Ray Houghton doing the donkey work. So the season afterwards, you know, there was a bit of a lull and we took control, but you know, after January the 1st, Liverpool went on that run where they just lost to Man United. And after that, boom, didn't lose a game, winning comfortably, home and away, got to the FA Cup final. And it's one of the things where they're waiting for us to slip up and we duly obliged. So you think about that, you know, even after when we drew Wimbledon at home in the last home game of the season, it was still a case of, well, it's Liverpool. We don't win at Anfield. We haven't won at Anfield since 1973, 16 years. 2-0. We're not going to win. But the anticipation that day is a case of where on a day it was different. I just sensed something. There was something different about the fans. Something different about, you know, George Graham. Something different about the players. It's like they came out, they thought, you know what? Why not? Why not? And I started to believe, especially at half time, I believed. And then when Alan Smith scored, I was convinced we were going to win, get the second goal. Convinced of it easily. And that's not just me.
I wasn't, mate. I'll be honest.
I hear you. You're in the ground, but when you look at you got to remember that Arsenal team had a bit about it. You know, we already showed we can beat Liverpool because let's not forget we had some very competitive games with Liverpool that season. You know, we drew at Anfield in the League Cup, and we drew at Highbury in the replay. And then we had another replay at Villa Park, which we They beat us, Stephen. They got the win, and then there was this sort of mercantile competition where we were playing Liverpool home and away, and we held our own against Liverpool. So it wasn't a case. It was a case. It wasn't as if we were. We didn't think that Liverpool were invincible. We played Liverpool quite a lot that season, and we showed that we could easily, comfortably compete with them.
Yeah, I don't know. I asked John. John was there. I'll get his opinion, man. Went to Anfield '89. Still can't believe it. John, did you actually think that we were going to put it off? Because I'll be honest with you, maybe you can call me Mr. Negative, but I didn't get that vibe. I didn't get the vibe that we were going to win it. Honestly, I didn't, because we hadn't won there since '74 or whatever it is, and I just thought winning 2-0 at Anfield after the run they've gone on, I just didn't get that at all. But give me your opinion, John. I'd love to know, my friend. Shane, sure you watched that on the TV?
Yeah.
Friday
It was
8 o'clock.
Yeah.
It was a late kick-off due to traffic issues, getting the fans in the ground and all that. It was an amazing night of football. We can't deny that. I would say one of the greatest Arsenal away games I've ever been to.
Oh, can I imagine?
To win the Division 1 Anfield, it was unheard of. What was you? I mean, you're a lot younger than me. I get that, but what was your anticipation for it? Did you actually think we were going to win it?
Yeah, but the thing is, now I was a kid. It's one of my first real memories. Because I'd gotten that year, one of the it was the first Arsenal jersey I got, which was actually the away one they were wearing, the yellow one. And I remember the match was on telly, which was very rare, especially in Ireland. You get about two games a year. And my mum had set me up to watch it. And my dad, who wasn't really into football, was trying to follow with me. But obviously, I've watched it numerous times since. And when you delve into your Arsenal history, I remember it. I do remember. I don't think I realised the massive importance of it. But I definitely knew it was big. But I haven't watched it since, and everything I know about it now, it brings us back to Alan Smith, the question of Alan Smith as well. I mean, two of the matches we've covered, if he hadn't been there, we mightn't have won the Cup Runners' Cup. If he hadn't been there for that game, he scored and assisted. You know what I mean? So the importance of Alan Smith can never be overlooked. But one of the things that I did love most about it was George Graham's tactic to get it in 0-0 at half time, and the players apparently were kind of like, should we not attack them from the start? And he said, no, if you get it in 0-0 at half time, and then you score in the second half, they'll start to question themselves. Because if Arsenal had taken the lead in the first 10 minutes or something, Liverpool would have had time to wake up and time to go, right, we need to fix this now. But as Kenny said, the staggering over the line, it's just so Arsenal. It's just so Arsenal that we staggered over the line. We were so far ahead. And then Liverpool went in that run, and they, like Kenny said, they waited for us to slip up, and we'd be, of course, obliged. The lead up in it with the 2-2 draw and things like that the week before, it was just like, it's typical Arsenal. This is going to be typical Arsenal. But this is a George Graham Arsenal. This is a George Graham Arsenal. And this is an Arsenal with Tony Adams and David O'Leary and John Lukic and all these players in it, all these winners in it. And, of course, Mickey Thomas. But Alan Smith, for me, goes under the radar for this game. Obviously, Mickey Thomas is going to get all the plaudits to this day. I don't know how he how he didn't snap at that shot. Like, I don't, under that much pressure, clean through, to not just swing a leg at it, to wait for Grobbelaar to go down. It just, that takes ice in your veins to do that. That takes ice in your veins to do that. But I mean, these people that try to compare the Aguero League and stuff to it, it's not even a competition for me. To go to your rivals who hadn't lost by, I could be wrong on this, Kenny, but it was several years since they'd lost by 2 at Anfield, I think, to anybody. To go and do that, to win the league on the last day on a Friday night. If you saw it, it's that sort of thing that if you saw it in a movie, you go, oh, it's too carried away. That wouldn't happen in real life. But it did. And it was just, it has to be Arsenal's most magical night, surely, with just everything that went into it. But I was young. I was young enough that I still remember it. But I mean, I do envy the likes of yourself that were there. I mean, that's I don't think you'll ever forget. I mean, I'm sure it's still as fresh in your memory as it was back then. It's just crazy night. And it had been so long. And it just really kicked off the George Graham era and just showed what he was all about. I think that game and the Cup Winners' Cup final, when we had a bit of a broken team, as in a lot of players were missing and stuff like that, and that Anfield game, I think those two games, they explain. If you were to explain someone to George Graham, you'd show them those two games and say, have a look at that. That's what this man was all about. But a wonderful night, unbelievable. I mean, it'll never be equal. It can't be, and absolutely amazing.
No, I mean, I've seen some great celebrations in North London with Arsenal back in the day, but I remember getting back to Highbury. Probably it's got to be 4 a.m, and there was people out there then putting bunting up on the lampposts around all the area. People were out and partying in the streets, and I thought, Christ, you know, I've seen great parades for potentially coming up for the FA Cups, etc., etc. It was unbelievable. It was just something I've never ever experienced quite since. Yeah, okay, when we went Invincible and all that, that was a great day and a great celebrations. But the fact we come back from Anfield to have done that massive achievement, it was almost like I actually sort of almost felt sorry for Liverpool with what had happened. They had a terrible year with the tragedy at Hillsborough and all that. And it was like, Christ, we've just done the impossible. And that's how it felt. Because, you know, we had a shit record, a bit like now. We haven't got a great record at Anfield. Yet we walked out of there winning 2-0 to win that league. And we had to win it. And it was done on goals scored, not on goal difference. And that was the factor. Never been done before. That we won it on goals scored, not goal difference. So that was something else that I didn't realise quite then. But we'll move it on. One of the greatest days of my life anyway. We'll move it on to this one. Let's remove that from the stage there. This is another one that Shane's brought up on this one. Another classic. I'll go to Kenny on this one first. Arsenal 3-2, half-time 2-2, Man United, Anelka 9 minutes. Sheringham scored 2, 41-33. So we went down. So we went Anelka 2-2. Sheringham scored 33 and 41. Falling apart. Platt comes in 83rd minute. Kenny.
Well, this game is very significant. For two reasons. One, most importantly, when we finally realised that Nickers and Elka was the real deal that day. Ian Wright was playing that game. I think he was playing that game, and Nickers and Elka was that goal, just short backlift. Schmeichel didn't even see the ball. Fantastic goal. But it's also the situation where it was one of the things where obviously Man United, I think that game was a change in the guard.
That's exactly it.
Where we basically thought, right, it's our turn now. We didn't know it at the time, because if you look at it, you would have thought I was actually off my head, because let's not forget, we lost to Liverpool. After that game, we lost to Blackburn, and then we had the meeting with Tony Adams and the players. But psychologically, that was when Man United for real went, hang on here. Yeah, these guys mean business. You know, this is not just an Arsenal team that can play football. This is an Arsenal team can mix it. You know, Vieira, you know, a fantastic goal. You know, basically, he, off balance. He actually hit a shot when he was a bit off balance, went in the top corner, hit the crossbar and went in. David Platt was scoring the winner 7 minutes ago. But Man United showed what they were about. 2-0 down, didn't have their heads down. They still played Man United football. So kept it ticking away. And Sheringham put his hand up, scored the first goal was a header, and then we was back to goal, got the ball on the half volley, and it was one of those games when you thought, right, this is a proper Man United game, because you think the season before that, Man United, Arsene Wenger's first, foray into English football, beat us 2-1 at home. Ian Wright, Schmeichel, the dirty tackle, and then obviously Ian Wright, when Man Utd beat us 1-0, Ian Wright, Schmeichel, Ian Wright says that Schmeichel screamed racial obscenities into him. So that was a bit of age. This season, it was football, where you think about that game. Not only did it was a case where the change of the guard, the football was brilliant that day. Sir Alex Ferguson thought they played badly, but they didn't. The ball was playing on the floor. It was competitive. By that time, Roy Keane didn't play that game. Just to remind everyone, Roy Keane had already committed footballing suicide, where he injured himself at Leeds. So it was a kind of game where, even without Keano, they were a strong team. And it's one of those things where that was the game of the season, but also psychologically, the change in the guard.
True, very true, mate. I've got a couple of questions here that I've starred. I think they're good questions, actually. Good questions to ask the panel. Here we go. Belly MJ, who was better, Perez or Sanchez? Who wants to go?
Yeah, we discussed this last night. It's Perez. It's definitely Perez. Sanchez was a wonderful, wonderful player. The last world-class player we had in my eyes. But Perez was at a stage, as me and Kenny were discussing yesterday, was the best stage in the world for a stage. In the 21-22 season, he was the best player in the world for me. And I don't think Sanchez was ever the best player in the world. Perez, for someone that is so highly rated and is still considered one of the best Premier League players of all time, I still think he's underrated. You know what I mean? I don't think he's rated highly enough, even though he's rated very highly. You had to have been there for Perez. I think he was unbelievable, especially with that combination of him, Ashley Cole, and Henry. I wonder if there's ever been a left side in world football that's been that good. And I mean that. I don't think there's ever been three players that have played down the left-hand side, all in their prime, that were that devastating. You know what I mean? They were just unbelievable. But Robert Perez pips it for me. And not even a very close. I think he's a good bit ahead. But that's not saying taking anything away from Sanchez. Sanchez, as I said, was the last world-class player we had. But Perez he was on a different stratosphere to 99% of players throughout history.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that. Ken, what do you think, mate?
Well, I have Ross Perez as one of the greatest players of all time.
Yeah,
and I sadly don't have Alexis Sanchez there. Alexis Sanchez gave us a very exciting moment. He was very much like a big fish and became a small pond, because I think we clear that we're never going to win the league and we're never going to win anything big, but we were a very good cup side and he gave us some really exciting moments. Definitely the main man. But come on, this is Robert.
Yep. Yeah.
That's why it's going to be very difficult for me next week on Shane's show to actually change it up a bit, because I don't want to be a copycat, but I will stick with what I think is the best of the best.
Hey, Jess, you've got to realise, right? One thing I've learned from YouTube is that, everyone in new media and conventional media, if it's a good idea, then why not? I've noticed with a lot of YouTubers and people in conventional media, if it's a great idea, why not copy it?
Well, yeah, I hear you. I have actually got some different players that I'm going to throw in the mix, which I think will be interesting, debatable. There you go. Never mind. Rose says, Jez, can I ask your thoughts on Jurgen Klopp as a coach? Is he up there? Well, I'd have to say yes. After what he's won, come on, you can't deny it. Shane, Jurgen Klopp, is he up there?
Yeah, he has to be. For the way he runs them into the ground is maybe his only downside.
Just to throw this in, mate, and I'll ask you the same. Would you take him at Arsenal?
Oh yeah, I would. Yeah. I would just for the success alone. Like I said, our players were already run into the ground anyway. But that was his only downside for me, was that I love this style of football, but he should have known he needed a bigger squad. I think for that style of football, you need minimum 22 top players and then another 10 that can come in and do a job because he had that thing where he'd run them into the ground and then there'd be a sort of a fourth-year hangover. It was at every club he was at. He'd have a sort of fourth, fifth-year hangover where the players just couldn't cut it anymore. But it was wonderful to watch, begrudgingly for me, because over here Liverpool would be my big rivals because I went to school with just predominantly United and Liverpool fans. But it begrudgingly admitted. But no, he was one. Just look at his trophies, style of football. And I always rate coaches that get the best out of their attacking players, and he certainly got the best out of his attacking players. Bobby Firmino was a bit of a joke when he came in. When Brendan Rodgers signed him, he didn't know where to play him, and he said, "You know what? I'm going to reinvent you, and in a proper way." But no, he has to be right up there. He has to be right up there. I mean, you don't beat that Pep team to a league. Granted, it was only 1-7, but you don't beat that Pep team to a league. You know, if we had had him as manager the last 2 or 3 seasons, we probably would have won 2 leagues. You know what I mean? That's the difference. That's the difference. But no, he's a top coach, And when I use the term coach as well as manager, you know, I think they're interchangeable. But he's a great coach as well as a great manager because he gets the best out of players, and that's what I look for in a coach.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Ken?
Well, right, so with that, Jurgen Klopp's one of the greats of coaching. The thing about it, right, is that he's got a very emotional attachment to Liverpool Football Club. And prizing away, he thinks that he'll think it's very treacherous for him to go to Liverpool. That's my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right, but you know, the love he has for that club is unbelievable, and I don't think that's the thing. I think with managers, I think when you come to English football is so unique where players, especially our cousins from abroad, they actually because of the way we treat them and the way we look after them, where we fall in love with them, they fall in love. They replicate our love. Some of them, the good ones, to the extent they can't.
Players like that.
Everyone knows that Cristiano Ronaldo should have gone to Man City, but he couldn't because of the love that Man United gave. And it's the same with some of our players. Sometimes you just can't, you know, go to another club. And I think Jurgen falls in that category. He genuinely fell in love with he's in love with Liverpool, just like Arsene fall in love with us. Can you imagine Arsene going to manage any other club other than Arsenal? He wouldn't do it because of the love he feels for us. And I think
he turned down United, Kenny, didn't he, at one point?
Exactly. He turned down United. And that's one of the things where sometimes it's if we love a player in this country and we get behind him and we make him and his family feel welcome, we've got him for life. It's been the way of the world in every club. We've got him for life. Liverpool, I see Liverpool, Man United, of course, and definitely with us. And I think that's why I'm not saying they don't do that in Italy and Spain, but you don't see so much loyalty from managers.
Do you think that is the fact? I still have a big problem with this. Do you think that is why a lot of Arsenal fans are so anti George Graham getting a statue because he went to Spurs?
I think what it is that it's a lot. Yeah, it's convenient. It's convenient, but let's not forget Spurs still give Frank Jennings a hosting job, even though he played 8 years at Arsenal. He still had. He finished great years. You know, he was still a great goalkeeper when he went with us. But I think with Arsenal, I think what it is that it's the Arsene Wenger thing, and it's people that are holding him back. David Dean would have been an opponent. So would the Hill was being an opponent. Ken Fry would be probably an opponent. But the fact is that more people have to start shouting the drum. He's an iconic manager. How can someone win 2 league titles and win our own European trophy, be Arsenal through and through, and still not get a statue? Pat Jennings, let's not forget, Pat Jennings was a Spurs fan, even when he played for us. He's Spurs through and through. Even when I think it wasn't obvious because he was so great for us, we didn't notice it. But you only have to look at the club that he holds dear to his heart. It's Tottenham, it's not us. But we still respect Pat for that. And Spurs fans still respect Pat. George Graham's never ever said anything bad about the club. Never. I believe he's still got the Arsenal cannon in his house. Let's not forget, you know, he fell in love with Arsenal. He didn't come through roommates. He first went to Villa, then went to Chelsea, and then he spent his greatest years at Arsenal, and that's that's his club. So I just think it's just,
more at Arsenal than he did at Spurs. But
yeah, he went to Spurs, but he didn't join Arsenal from Tottenham. He joined Spurs from Leeds United, and he went because he missed London. There wasn't a vacancy at Arsenal for him. The club moved on. We played better football. We didn't need George.
Yeah, true. Question from Dow. Big up, Dow. Jez is Arsenal. What was Ian Wright's best goal scored, and what was the most important goal? Well, for me, this is an unknown goal. Not many people are going to remember this goal, right? We were playing West Ham, 1991, right? We were playing West Ham at Highbury, and it was 1991, and he was stood right out on the right wing, right near the halfway line flag. We used to have halfway line flags back then. And he was just stood there, right? And Arsenal winning 1-0. He got the ball. I can't remember from him who. He ran down the wing, cut inside two defenders and scored a banger. Now, the reason I remember that particular goal, I wasn't at the game. I won't lie. I wasn't at the game, right? But it was right 10 minutes before the end of the game. The game was cut. That was the first night of the invasion of Iraq. And I always remember it thinking, shit, what's happening here? And all of a sudden on IT, all the programs went on to live footage of what was happening over in Iraq with the Americans and all that drama. But I always remember that goal because it sticks in my brain. I thought, what an amazing goal. We went 2-0 up, and then the programme was cut because we went live over to all that drama. And that's what sticks in my mind. Not probably it was a great goal, to be honest. It was a great goal. But it just sticks in my head, that one. Shane, one for you with Wrighty?
I think most important goal for me was the semi-final goal in the Cup Cup against PSG, just for the sheer reason that we drew the game and then won the next one 1-0, just because because of what it led to. Oh no, that was the no, that's yeah. But the best goal, sorry, was the one against Everton. I think when he took it down over his shoulder and put it over one foot, sold it over the other, and then chipped Neville Southall, and the camera just zoomed in on Neville Southall. Absolutely, couldn't believe what had happened. But he scored many. I like the one he chipped against Swindon from outside the box. The chip against Leeds. He was a scorer of great goals as well as a scorer of tap-ins. But for me, the Everton one when he sold it all back out. I think it was when we had Highbury had the boards up with the fans painted on. No, we didn't. It was the year after that. But yeah, the solo over the Everton defender and then lobbing Southall, I think it was Ian Wright through and through. Just a menace in the box. That one's always for me. That's stuck with me. The box.
Kenny Ken, Ian Wright.
Ian Wright, as I said before, Ian Wright is a street player. You can't coach what he does, but when I think he's his best goals, he scored. You remember in the Charity Shield, and we played Man United, where he basically scored a volley where he got the ball first because Man United defender had his foot in, and he went where it hurt and scored a goal where he kind of looped over Schmeichel. That was a fantastic goal. Obviously the goal against Everton was just Ian Wright, and obviously, but the first goal against Leicester again, great goal. But I think one of his, I still think that Swindon Boxing Day was his best goal for me because it's how he done it. Yeah, and believe it or not, John Fashanu scored a goal against Swindon like that as well. Yeah. This is John Fashanu, but yeah, Ian Wright, his best goal was Swindon. I think Everton was good because it's Neville Southall, I feel, is one of the best goalkeepers I've ever seen live. Sorry, Shilts, but Neville Southall was better than you. But Ian Wright's best goal for me. Right, Saturday, Swindon, Boxing Day. I know it's Swindon. They got relegated that season. They're awful.
But there's no keeper saving that, though, Kenny. It doesn't matter who's the goals for that. There's no keeper saving.
Hey, talking of Swindon, that was a game where Tony Adams got substitute half time. Not many people realise that he was.
Only happened twice, I think, didn't it?
Yeah, he was worse for wear. He only got substitute because he was worse for wear. And George Graham realised he was away with the fairies and told him he was an absolute disgrace. But because it was Swindon, he managed to sort of
cover it up
because they were that bad. But yeah, that game had a lot of great goals, and we finished fourth that season. We had a better season than the rubbish from before, and we won the European Cup Cup.
And so just before that Ian Wright goal in the Charity Shield, that was the one where David Seaman ballooned the penalty, wasn't it? But was that the only goal?
Well, you don't talk
was that
about
the only goal that Ian Wright got? Was that the only goal Ian Wright ever scored against Schmeichel?
Believe it or not, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because he
never in a competitive game. Never scored in a competitive game against him.
No, not at all. And I think Schmeichel wore that as a badge. And Ian Wright
so he should.
Hence the fact you had the situation we had that. Well, it's a combination. First of all, Schmeichel, called him that. Called him it. I don't think Schmeichel's ever denied it. And he's apologised to Ian Wright. And Ian Wright went, right. Ian Wright had this little black book in it. Because Ian Wright, if you didn't need the Instagram or hello with Ian Wright. If he found something out about you, i.e. something about your wife, something you weren't great with, whether you're great in bed or not, during the match he'll tell you.
Yeah.
To try and put you off your game. Yeah, he used to always have a go at, the only players who used to buy it, Des Walker used to always buy it with Ian Wright.
And they're good friends as well, though, aren't they?
Yeah, they became good friends. But that tackle on Schmeichel, 97, that's a combination of what happened in Old Trafford and obviously the fact that
the frustration.
Schmeichel just refused to let that guy score against him. I think he was taking it personally when Wright scored against him. And guess what? They became good friends afterwards.
Yeah, that's what happens.
As people
do. When the swords are laid down.
As they do. It's all war when you're an opponent, but afterwards you act professional, I suppose. I don't know. I don't know how it works, but there we go. Anyway, we're going to wrap this up, people, because I've got to go out for dinner with my daughter and my wife and the granddaughter. Kenny, you're going over to Dan Potts' show, I believe. Sadly, I can't make it tonight. But
first and foremost, what I want to say to everyone, I'm sorry for taking over your show, but this is a public service announcement for every YouTuber out there. Buckle up. Do your seatbelts up. Make sure that you've got the safety harness on. Because you think the Wenger years were hot, super hot red chili pepper. You wait till the 17th. Every Arsenal game is going to be scrutinised. Everything you do, Jez, everything you do, you're going to get numbers, even numbers you don't want, because this is the season where there's going to be anarchy if we don't win the league.
Yeah, true, mate. Very well said, Kenny, again. Very well said. Shane, my friend, buddy, what you got coming up? Shout your channel out, please.
Yeah, big up for having me on, of course. Always a pleasure. I love the old school show now. It's one of the shows I look forward to the most. And it's always an honour to be on it. And big up to the chat and, of course, Kenny Ken. I've got the full Irish tomorrow. Then I have my panel show, the Bruised Banana, tomorrow night. Oh, no, sorry, Thursday night. But the full Irish tomorrow. And I'm scooting over to Dan's now as well with Kenny. We go in and see who we have to face up to when we go over there. But,
you got Christian and D.
Okay. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But yeah, no, Jez, thanks for having me on, man. Absolute pleasure.
Yeah, always, mate. Always. Legends. Anyway, people are going to wrap it up. Go and do a raid on Jez raid on Dan's channel and show him support and love. Sadly, I can't make it tonight. I've got to go out with the daughter. It's her 35th birthday. So I can't miss that one. No, I wouldn't like to. But yeah, we're out of here, people. Thank you for all your comments.
Speak to you later.
And we'll catch you later, people. We're out of here. And have a good evening. And I'll see you later in the week. Take care. Bye.